How's it going, everyone? My name is Eli, and today we are going to be changing out this radio on my 2008 Ford Escape. We are going to be going from this radio here to changing out this plate. I'm going to be installing this and then a new radio with the screen going on it right here. So going to be walking through this, all the steps. I'll have all the tools and all the parts that I ordered in the description below. And with that, let's get started. Real quick, I want to go over the tools that you'll need for this project. A trim tool, flathead screwdriver, a 9/32 socket with an extension, or it can be 7mm, wire cutters, wire crimpers, 12mm wrench, a drill, Phillips head socket, and finally, good lighting. One of the first things you're going to want to do is we'll start the car, or just turn the car on and move the shifter back as far as possible, because when we pull out this bottom part, it's just going to give us more room. So move this shifter back and then go ahead and put your e-brake on, turn off the car. There you go. And then we will unplug or disconnect the negative terminal on the battery cable, just to kind of protect ourselves, make sure we won't get shocked as we are working on the radio. You see the hood is open. I have the negative terminal disconnected. So now we're going to start with this. First thing you'll need is one of these trim tools. And you can just pop this out. It kind of comes out forward. There we go. This just pops forward like this. And we can just move this up out of the way, just like so. That's up out of the way now. Here, I actually already took these off, but these are just 7mm bolts here. Got two of them here and here. And then you'll need to pull off this bottom piece here. Again, using this trim tool. You can see I've already got this one off, started. There we go. Now this is popped out, and this is part of the reason why having the shifter pulled back. So now you can see why having the shifter pulled back gives us much more room here. When this is pulled up or in park, you know, the shifter's right here, so this, you just don't have nearly the amount of room. This has a couple wiring connections behind it, so you just got to pull the tabs on those, and you can get those to come out. And now this piece here comes out. Also, we can set it right here. Push these wire connections through, and then you have two more 7mm bolts down here at the bottom, which again I already removed. I was working on this a little bit before. So now this whole piece here, this comes out. It's again just kind of getting it to wiggle out. There we go. So now you can pull out this whole piece here. It just kind of wiggles out. And let's see here. This is really the reason why you need to have the shifter pulled back. So this, you have a lot more room here. Pulling out the air conditioning unit, there's a bunch of these small bolts here, also 7mm. Here you can see why we really needed that room with the shifter, being able to pull this out all the way. Then back here you can see some of the connections on these. This is the antenna, some of these wire cords here. We're going to go ahead and just unplug all of these clips here, make it a little bit easier on ourselves. So these just all pop out like so. Ooh, that one's a little bit tougher. I have to get two hands on that. But once this is out, we can just pull out this whole unit. We can leave once you unscrew this, you can leave the air conditioning unit attached, basically. Now I have this piece out, this nameplate and the actual radio right there. So all this is going to get replaced with the new setup that we have. Here you can see the wiring connections. So what's good about this is that we can actually just disconnect these wiring connections from here and then move it to a bench, and then we can reconnect all of the wires that we need for the new wiring hookups. There's our antenna. Like I said, this is all the stuff for the air conditioning unit. These are some auxiliary ones for the cigarette lighter. You won't need to touch that. This is our grounding strip. Need to remember to put that back. Yeah, so it's just be pulling out this wiring connection right here. And there we go. Looks like we have one more, probably a grounding strip on this side I need to pull off. This bolt here where those two grounding strips are on is actually, they were on this other side here. This was a 12mm bolt. So that was the only little bit tricky, just had to break it with a ratchet coming up here on this other side. And then that came off and I was able to pull off both of those grounding strips. And so with that, now I have the whole wiring harness free, and now I can go to the bench and reconnect or connect my new wiring, which is going to go on. Now this is where the project starts to get fun. So in the kit they sent me, here's the new adapters that'll plug in. So I'll have to cut these wires here, splice these, this is the kit they gave me. Trying to follow here what I got. This is for the antenna. And then they also sent these factory color codes. So from here, I'm going to be able to try and get this all hooked up together, and I will do my best to share with you all the things that I find and do what I can to get it done first correctly. Also on here you can see this is the new radio. Underneath it, it has a wiring diagram showing a little bit what's supposed to be on here. So here you can see the wiring that I actually used for this project. Everything from the speakers down to the powering the radio and the backup light. As I was going, when I first did this, I made some mistakes initially, and there's a lot of graphs and diagrams tried finding, but this is what I used and it worked well. So I'll try and include this as a PDF in the description below, so you can go to that if you want, or just take a screenshot. You should also note that on the back of both of these bags, it also has showing exactly what the colors are. So it's a standard based off the EIA, the Electronics Industry Association standard. But this should be what the directions or what the wires are all labeled for. My first step is going to be cutting these off so I can see the wire colors. I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting all these wires, that way I can pull them off and have a better idea. I'm going to start off when I'm putting them together with the grounds, the power and ground. So it's the red and white and this black one, and be able to have those first, get started that way. So with this tool here, this is what I'm going to use for crimping and also for stripping the wires. So these are 18 gauge. So this, put it on one side and then we'll give it a crimp. There we go. Now our other side here, put that on. Give this side a crimp. There you go, give it a test. Should be nice and snug. So that's basically going to be the process now going forward. Going through these, giving them a slight twist, put them into the crimping tool and give them a crimp. This is not the hard part. The hard part is identifying which lines you're putting into both sides. So the next ones I'm going to try and tackle are all of the speakers. So with those, it's pretty clear on here. So I'm going to start with this left front speaker. You see it's white, and left front speaker, the positive, negative, white, and white, black. On here, so these are the two I have pulled aside. There's white, white, black. And then on the new connectors, look at, they're the same color. They're following that same standard. So white, white, black, white, white, black. Get those crimped and put together. And just going to be working my way through each of these and getting all the connectors done and start narrowing down some of these, some of this mess that we got going here. Alright, so I just kind of had a light bulb moment, and it probably should have come earlier. But I was looking at these two wire bundles here. I was like, man, I have so many more wires left than what I have. I have 3 more here. I only have 3 on this main connection, and then I have all these other wires here. But what I realized, these 2 bundles, one of them connects here, and there's no auxiliary, nothing even here. So this one doesn't really matter. The other is for this headphone jack inlet. But with this new stereo has Apple CarPlay, it has a USB here, and it has a headphone input built into it here. So these other 2 wire harnesses I actually do not need at all, so I can completely remove them or just leave them in there, but they don't need to be connected to anything because there's no power. So I just have these 3 remaining, and then after that's all I got. So very excited about that. A slight correction on the last wiring part. The main power going out is actually this white and red wire here. That should be connected to this yellow one. That's basically the always on. It should have a constant 12-volt source. This other red one here should be whenever there's an accessory. I could not find another one of these that was a 12-volt source that would turn on when the key was on. There's either some of these auxiliary ones were on all the time. It was just, so what I ended up doing is this red wire, and this red wire is much longer than it needs to be, but this actually goes down to the fuse panel that's on the passenger side. Right down underneath here there's a fuse panel. Let me show you. So from the passenger seat is where the radio, if you go down here, open this little panel, there's a fuse panel in here. So you can go straight from one of these sources in here back to a 12-volt source going up, and that will turn on as an accessory. So that's what I did, just used a little fuse jumper and came up through here. Anyways, with that being said, I have pretty much all the speaker wires here. Constant is this one coming to yellow, ground is the black, this accessory is this red one. That completes the wiring coming from this cable up to the radio. So this radio actually has the ability for 2 cameras to hook up to it, one in the front and one in the back. Now this car actually already had you see there's a backup camera already attached, and that's what this wiring here was for. But the problem is their camera came down to this receiver, this wireless receiver that then would send the signal up to where the screen was at. Now what I want to do is actually have the wires run all the way up there. The only trick with a backup camera is it has to get a signal from this tail light here. There's a reverse light. When that reverse light has power, That'll send a signal up to here, and that will tell the radio, okay, go look at the backup camera. So let me take this off really quick and I'll show you what we got going on. So to take this off, it's just 2 screws right here and here, and then it just pops out. You should be able to just give it a pull like so. Okay, so this bulb down here, this is the one that is the backup lights. So you can see here's the jumper that this person used before, these kind of clip-ons here, and this is the cable right here that goes, so you got a ground and then connected to this 12-volt source of that bulb, and it goes up, down underneath here, and it's pulled out right here. So this wire for me will be my signal that I'll send with the cord going forward for the camera. So you can see the camera right here. The way that this will mount, right, this will sit up high in there, and the cord will be run down. This red line here is basically the signal wire. So this red and black will connect to the red and black of this wire coming out, and then the rest of this cord goes all the way up front, and then this yellow tab here is a video in. So you can see here's the front camera, backup camera, the rear camera. So that rear camera will plug in there, and then this wire here will go to this back camera control wire, and when the signal happens back here at the light, be carried through this wire, through this red line to here, and then carried all the way up to here, and that'll give the car the sense of, okay, yep, there's power there, turn the radio to the backup camera. What's different from the front camera is that the front camera, there's a button on the radio that you hit to go towards the front camera, and that will send a signal from this pink wire from the front camera to the camera for the front. So here's that wire coming out of here, and then I'll have to just run the rest of the wire back out here. First thing though is to take this off so I can reroute the camera going up and send it back down through here and down into this area here. A couple more Phillips head screws. So here's what it looks like real quick underneath here. This is the wire for the camera right here that came out of the top, and I'm running it here, and I'm having to send it down here, and it'll come out this hole back into this hole. And I just pulled off that first piece of paneling there, and I'm just going to go through the paneling underneath up front. This is all closed back up. Camera's hooked up. These wires, I decided to run them just along this damper here. They'll run here. There's a grommet around this to protect those wires. This is now hooked up to the brake light, so this will be sending that sense. Now I just have to run this underneath here, probably go down along that dashboard or this door here. Run it right down through here, into here underneath, and then across. One good thing is that these panels are super easy just to pull out and get a good look behind. The one thing I really want to make sure I don't do is smash the wire and get it cut on anything back here. That would be a bummer. Cool. And this is all done. Now I'm there going forward. Making progress. So you can see all my cord is here now. Just keep running that all the way down here, right underneath this. Really what I'm doing, just looking where the wires are already being run and then just trying to keep it close to that. All right, now I just have the front seat left. All the way up to here. Everything's been able to go right back behind these plastic panels here. It's gonna be well protected, out of sight. That's what I was going for. These are the little things that are inside there holding it on. Honestly, I thought this was going to be harder than it actually is. It's really not that hard, just kind of picking it one section at a time. Picking up, you know, a piece like this and say, okay, let's get it past here, and putting it back, covering it up. It's really not that bad. Okay, so I have the cord going all the way up here. I have one more piece of plastic out right there, but I'll be able to use some zip ties and make sure it's up out of the way, all the way. And I may as well fix this. This is an automatic starter that this car has, and it's always kind of in the way. So I can zip tie that up there a little bit better as well. But it's cool being so close. Well, something else I found, this panel that goes right underneath the steering wheel just comes off, so you have access to this, all this room here. I really appreciate that Ford did that. Makes it so much easier. In one of the first videos I made about this car, I talked about how this car was like a toy, like it was just ready to make modifications and just pull these panels off. So easy compared to the Cadillac. So really appreciate that. This, it just slides in right here and comes up just like so. Super easy to just pull off from the top here, folds down and pulls off. Now I have my cord that I need for the camera routed all the way from back there to here. Before I go much further, I'm gonna test it and make sure it works before calling it done. All right, so let's see what happens. Got the car on. As soon as I put it in reverse, hey, look at that. Not too bad. Okay, so now I have everything all hooked up in here and should be good to go. You can see these on the side of the radio. I actually had to cut those to get them to work, but yeah, now those are good to go. So I can put this back in, put all these cables back in there, and should be able to just put it all back and be done. I decided against the front camera. I don't think that would be, just not something I want, and in particular trying to run the cable from the front of the car to here, don't really want to go through the firewall. All right, now just putting it all back together, and these bolts are all 7mm or 9/32. Next to all of these, plugging these in. This one's lined straight up. Okay, so here, got that one plugged in. This one right here also, you get this plugged in, down like so. Like that. Now, this one here. There's that one. And this, we want to, this one here, we want to send through this hole here so that it can feed into the outlet on the other side. Nice, that's a really nice fit around there. Underneath here, pull, make sure this thing is out here so that we can plug it into the cigarette lighter. Now, continue on with this. Now that's done. Now this piece here, get this plugged in like so. These ones we don't need plugged in anymore. This, I should probably figure out what to do with this one here. I think it's something cool to add on here or something like that. But right now, yeah, don't need anything hooked onto those. And that just will pop back in right there. Now we just have this top piece, which will just slide in like so. Start her up and there we go.